Good morning.
Good morning, Donna.
So today is the last day before the great fast begins. We've spoken a few weeks now about fasting. Last week and the week before, we are all preparing for these things. The Last Judgment. Today is Forgiveness Sunday. Today, as I have said many times before, to forgive and to be forgiven, that is truly one of the greatest miracles that there are. You can be healed, but to be healed of the spirit and the soul, that is the true miracle. Jesus Christ, our Lord, gave us that ability, gave us that strength, gave us that wisdom to do it. Now, and today in the epistle that Paul wrote to the Romans, he speaks about fasting. Actually, both the epistle and the gospel reading both speak about these things. And he talks about the armor of light and shedding off the works of darkness. If you read the bulletin, you actually are preparing yourselves for greater things to come when you actually do the fast. I know a lot of times people are like, I gotta do it, I gotta have no meat, I gotta have no cheese. If you can do that, great. If you can do that, be blessed. But if you do that and there's no problem, no whatsoever to the struggle in your life, then you need to do something more. As I spoke to a friend of mine during the fast, I said, spend 15 more minutes additional a day in prayer. Spend a little bit more time with the Lord. If you have a problem with gossiping, then fast from gossiping. If you have a problem from lying, fast from lying. It takes a conscious effort. It takes an effort to see the error of your ways. And when you fast and do those things, it prepares you for actually combating those sins. The sins that we face, the sins that we deal with on a day in and day out struggle, sometimes those have been so comfortable with us that they have become like a friend. I know that there's sins in my life, it's like a friend to me. And if I didn't have it in my life, it would be something strange. But I want that strange part of my life. I want that mystery in my life. I want that to be gone. I want all those things that don't belong removed. I want to shed those works of darkness. And I want to be able to put on that armor of light. What is that armor of light that Paul speaks about? Well, when you go out, he says to put on the armor of light and to put on Jesus Christ. When people see you, they should be seeing a reflection of Jesus. And if you look at yourself in the mirror and you see anything less than that, then you have a lot of work to do. And I dare say probably all of us have to work towards that goal of seeing Jesus Christ reflected back in the mirror. And when I look at different people, I actually try to see who it is they are. And I try to see Jesus within them. No matter how small the spark is, it doesn't matter even if they're a Christian or not. It doesn't matter what belief, what faith they are, they have that small spark within them. And all it needs is that fanning of the Holy Spirit to ignite that into a flame. That's what we believe. That's what we hope for, to strive that everyone understands the glory that is Jesus Christ. Today, we celebrate Forgiveness Sunday. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean, Forgiveness Sunday? Well, Jesus talks about this in the gospel. And it's a very, very powerful statement that he makes. One that he does not make idly, and one that he only makes maybe once or twice in the whole of the time that he speaks to the people. If you, now listen to that two-letter word, if you do not forgive people their sins, my Father will not forgive you. What a statement that is. What a statement. God, the all-omnipotent, all-merciful, all-powerful being, will not forgive you if you cannot forgive the people that you see before you. And it's hard sometimes to forgive. It's hard. Especially when somebody slaps you in the face. Or let's take a little bit further. Somebody commits an adultery, an affair. Let's go a little bit farther. Somebody takes the life of one of your beloved ones. Those are the things that we often say, I cannot forgive. But Jesus doesn't differentiate between any of those things. He says, if you cannot forgive, I cannot forgive you. And remember, those people that commit those atrocious acts may enter the kingdom of heaven before I do. That's a powerful statement that he makes. That's a powerful thing that he says that will not happen if we don't forgive other people. But one of the biggest burdens that every Christian holds is being able to forgive. Being able to forgive people that wronged you. And judging them. And remember, the word, thou shalt not judge lest you be judged, I want you to actually look at what that actually means. Judge not lest you be judged. We make judgments all the time. We make judgments probably hundreds of times a day. I judge how hard to push my brake for the vehicle in front of me. I judge when to open my door. I judge whether or not I should discipline my child. I judge whether or not what to say, what I'm going to say. We got to understand the difference between judgment. But the actual word in Greek, kritizo, means criticize. Now, let's change that statement. Thou shalt not criticize lest you be criticized. It's a criticism. We have to judge. But criticism is something different. Criticism is going deep and hitting the core of somebody's personality, somebody's who they are within. Oh, that adulterer. Remember, we read this gospel about the tax collector. I'm glad I'm not like him. I'm glad I'm not like this horrible tax collector sitting in front of me. Everything that we do, all the readings that we prepare, all lead up to a certain thing for Holy Week, for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And Jesus tells us, right? Store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where moth and rust cannot get to it. What does that mean? I mean, oftentimes we look at these things, we hear it every year, and hopefully we read it numerous times throughout the year if you're reading your scriptures. But what does it actually mean? Storing myself up treasures in heaven. And he says, don't store it down here on earth. Moth and rust can get to it. The treasures that we have here can be taken away, can be stolen, can be destroyed. Our money, our wealth, our cars, our houses, especially down here in Florida, we can lose all that in the glimpse of an eye when a hurricane comes through. That's not important. I mean, yeah, we're sad. But every time I see some devastation like that, the first thing I ask is how many people lost their lives so we can pray for them? How many people have been devastated by that? And how many people lost their lives before they understood who Jesus Christ was? That is the greatest tragedy. That is the greatest sorrow that there is. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Those things, the kindness that you treat people with, the love that you treat people with, the forgiveness that you give people with, that's what you store up in heaven. Those are the treasures that God is talking about. That's what treasures Jesus is talking about here. Shedding off that armor, that thing of darkness, the despair, the sadness, the guiltiness, all those things. You got to remember, sin is more than just committing them. It's often feeling them. How often do we get depressed? I struggle with that myself. But depression, think about who you're thinking about. It's pride. If I'm depressed, I'm only thinking about myself. That's a form of pride. When I'm despondent, I'm only thinking about myself. But if I attempt to shed off that work of darkness, to put on the armor of light, that glory will shine through. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lifetime some days. And as long as we take a step forward every single day and not take any steps back, then we can continually get closer to Jesus Christ. But oftentimes, tragedy happens and we end up falling back numerous times in the course of our life. And then it's all the harder to get closer and closer to God. But the closer you get to God, I'm not going to tell you it's going to get easier. The closer you get to Jesus Christ, the more severe the war becomes. I guarantee, if we spoke to these saints that we have hanging on the wall, and we go and talk to the monks and stuff that we're going to go on our journey next month, they're removed from the world. But I guarantee that sometimes their struggle is more than ours. Every year at January 1st, when we are sitting there doing whatever we're doing on the 31st of December, I remember when I was a kid, that used to be drinking and partying all the wee hours of the morning. But now, I probably go to bed pretty early because I just don't feel like staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning. But every year, what was it? A New Year's resolution. A New Year's resolution. And most of the time, you were making that resolution for yourself, to better yourself. And about a week into it, you fall away. 2 weeks, you fall away. A month, if you're lucky, you make it till March. But this year, I want to challenge you all. I want to challenge you to have a new Lent resolution. A new Lent resolution. It's 40 days. If you can do it starting tomorrow, you will continue doing it throughout the rest of your life. And pick something that you want to change about yourself. I want to pray more. I want to spend more time with my spouse. I want to spend more time with my kids. It's a new Lent resolution. And accomplish it. Don't let anything stand in your way. If you're going to pray and you want to pray for an extra 15 minutes, set a timer and pray for an extra 15 minutes. If you want to turn off the TV and spend some extra time with your kids, turn off the TV. If you can only do it for an hour, set the timer for an hour. But make a difference, a conscious effort to make a change in your life. The best solution actually is to try to get closer to Jesus Christ. But I guarantee if you pray more and spend more time with your family and turn off the TV, that will also happen as well. Because all those things that we do to try to focus on our home and our family and our God, because you got to remember, our homes are little churches. We are the priests of our church. We are the deacons and the clergy of our home. That is the goal of every Christian, is to get a little bit closer to Jesus Christ and to shed off the works of darkness and to put on that armor of light. I want my son to see me. There's days when my son looks at me and he says, I saw you do this, Dad. And if it's a good thing, I'm like, all right. At least I taught him something good. But when he sees something that I do that's ignorant, I'm like, man, what did I do? Did I fail him in some way? There was one day when my son looked at me and says, Dad, I am like Peter. I'm like, yeah, I know you're like Peter. He says, no, Dad. I have the keys to the kingdom of heaven. I was like, whoa. He does have the keys to the kingdom of heaven. All of us do. But oftentimes, it's buried underneath all the treasures that we hold in our home. It's buried underneath the treasures that we hold so dear. It's buried underneath the sin and the weaknesses that we have. Those keys are in our hands. But oftentimes, we put them away for something that doesn't belong in our lives. My son teaches me so much. And I hope that I can be the man that I need to be for him and everybody here. So let's glorify him and let us praise his name. And I pray and I hope that I see everybody tonight at Forgiveness Vespers. Remember, it's a gift tonight to be forgiven and to ask to be forgiven. So I encourage you to come and call people that you don't see here to have them come so we can glorify Jesus Christ together. Amen.